Are you looking for a new math curriculum? Well, CTC Math specializes in providing online video tutorials that take a multi-sensory approach to learning. Favorably reviewed in Kathy Duffy's 102 Top Picks and the Old Schoolhouse Crew Review. The lessons are short and concise to help your children break down concepts and appreciate math in a whole new way. The lessons are taught the traditional way, not to the test. Each one of the video tutorials is taught by an internationally acclaimed teacher, Pat Murray, who is renowned for teaching math concepts in a simple, easy-to-understand way and in only a few minutes at a time. Using a multi-sensory approach, having the combination of effective graphics and animation synchronized with the voice of a friendly teacher together with practical assessment, even students who struggled with math are getting fantastic results. And the ones that were doing okay before now are doing brilliantly. Visit CTC Math today and start your free trial. That's ctcmath.com.
This is a production of the Ultimate Homeschool Radio Network. Welcome to the Vintage Homeschool Moms Show. Your host, Felice Gerwitz, is an author, a publisher, and your radio show host. She will encourage, educate, and inspire you with answers to your most pressing questions from homeschool, marriage, parenting, and much more. Felice loves to equip moms to live a Christian life because every moment counts. Be sure to visit her website at mediaangels.com. And here's your host, Felice Gerwitz.
Today, I want to encourage you not to listen to all those voices out there. Moms, you are enough. Many times we doubt our abilities. Should we homeschool? We're not going to do a great job. I don't have a degree in education. Or should we put our kids in a co-op or a private school or a public school? Or, oh my gosh, what should I do? So today I am going to break down some critical concerns of homeschool moms and dads, and I'm going to give you some tools to thrive in your home. Welcome, everyone. My name is Felice Gerwitz, and today our topic is Moms, You Are Enough. This is episode 532. I want to give a shout out to our sponsor, and that is CTC Math. We want to thank them for their ongoing sponsorship, and you can find them at ctcmath.com. Well, I was working on an Inspire series, and this is a blueprint for encouraging excellence in our children and in our homes. But as I was praying about this, I really thought, well, wait a minute. You need to encourage moms. And I did a quick search on our podcast network. So if you're not familiar with it, that is the Ultimate Homeschool Podcast Network. And I just did a quick search for, inspiring moms, and I found a few of my podcasts, and a few of the other podcasters did some topics that were similar, but nothing quite like this. So I felt like this needed to be a precursor to the other Inspire series. And I've been taking a little bit of a break on Vintage Homeschool Moms. I haven't been putting out new series every week. When you're on podcast number 532, I always laugh at myself and say, oh my gosh, how many more podcast topics can you think about? And as long as the good Lord keeps giving me topics, I will keep talking to you. So this other series I want to do is going to be a new podcast weekly. And I really feel they're important to get the word out. So as I was working on the Inspire series, I felt like I needed to encourage all of you. If you're a mom or a dad or a caregiver, I want to welcome you, because this episode is geared toward trying to navigate a hostile world where we're told we need experts for everything. When someone asked me what I do, I said, well, currently I'm working on some books and I have a podcast network. And they said, oh, well, are you a communication major? I said, no. I kind of have the gift for gab. I can talk to anybody. I'm one of these people that will stand in line and then by the time we get to the front of the line, I know the people in front of me and behind me. Typically, nobody believes this, but I am actually a shy person, but I also love people. And so what I love about podcasting is I can talk to all of you from the privacy of my home, but you don't have to have a degree to podcast. So anyway, I just kind of tucked that thought away, and I thought, this is what happens. Everybody thinks you need to be some kind of authority to speak out on a topic. If you're a brand new homeschool mom, maybe doing a podcast on, how to homeschool might be a little bit far-fetched when you're just starting out. But, typically our experience is learned. It is something that has happened within our home. And so I know there were a lot of voices out there that just basically said, you can't homeschool, or you shouldn't do it, or, what if you ruin your children? I remember one of my friends telling me that, we're told we're not enough and we can't think for ourselves, and that we need these outside voices, these experts, if you will, in social media. I mean, if you want to ask a question, just ask one of these rampant groups that, everyone has something to say, and mostly negative. You can go listen to the news, your favorite app, or even worse, your parents, in-laws, or spouse that may be negative at some point in time. If you're on, I want to back up, if you're on a social media, group, my daughter was sharing that she was in a Facebook group that was geared to Christians. And finally, she just had to remove herself from it because she said there was so much negativity. So we don't want to surround ourselves with so much negativity that we can't, get on with our day because we're so upset with something that we've read. And so the good news is that I believe, even without meeting you, that you're more than enough, that you have the tools you need. I mean, somehow you found this podcast, perhaps the entire Homeschool Podcast Network. Maybe you found us and you're on our email group. And in particular, this episode of Vintage Homeschool Moms. I mean, somehow you found me in the midst of the noise and the naysayers. And that tells me you're incredibly resourceful, open, and willing to learn all you can to be the best you can be at this point in time. And I was so excited to get started, I forgot to tell you where you could get the show notes. So if you're on an app, typically the show notes come along with the app. But if you want to find us online, it's http Vintage Homeschool Moms, and you can find episode 532, Moms, You Are Enough. So I want to let you know that we all struggle, okay? And you can define yourself as I am a blank. I can tell you I'm a Christian spouse, mom, grandparent, and that I feel like I am enough. What's the difference between being enough and being the best? First, being enough means being comfortable with who we are, with our mistakes, and I am not the most graceful person in the world. I'm going to admit that right here. If there's a step, I'm going to trip over it. That doesn't mean I avoid steps, but it does mean I'm aware of my shortcomings and failures to notice details, especially when I'm walking. And I'm careful when navigating the steps. I never walk and look at my cell phone. That would be a recipe for disaster. Recently, my husband and I were walking along a sidewalk, and I actually tripped. And he just shook his head at me and actually went back to see where I tripped because it looked like flat surface. And then we saw this tiny little incline, and of course, my foot found it. But again, that doesn't keep me from walking. And that's the point that I'm making here. Just because we have a failure or there's something that we're not the best at, I can sit there and go, oh my gosh, I'm such a klutz. Okay, I am, but I'm okay with it. Instead of sitting there and calling ourselves names and then thinking, oh my gosh, I can't do this, we have to focus on the positive aspect of it and just soldier on. Look at the areas that you're concerned about. If there's a problem, define it. If there's a concern, name it. In the near future, we will, God willing, offer a call with some of our podcasters on this network. I really want to do this and offer this as a celebration for our 11 years on air as a Homeschool Podcast Network. This is because I see such a need to one-to-one discussions. For years, I traveled at homeschool conferences and I spoke. One of the best things, other than losing my voice at the end of 3 days or 2 days, usually it was like Thursday night, Friday, and Saturday, was the fact that I got to connect with homeschool moms. I got to sit there. I got to hear their hearts. Many times they didn't even buy curriculum, and that was fine. But I got to share with them and to hear what they had to say and to be an encourager. I never was a cheerleader, but just think of me as your cheerleader, as me standing there and saying, you can do this, whatever this is, whether it's, I'm going to paint this room today, or as my sister-in-law, a brand new homeschooler, decided she was going to sew a dress, had never sewn anything in her life, and she decided she could. My daughter looked at me when she was 12 years old and said, I want to write a novel. And I said, we've never written a novel before. I had written some books previous. And she goes, Mom, we're homeschoolers. We can figure it out. That's the can-do attitude I want you to focus on. I've learned that many of us struggle not so much thinking we are covering enough information or should we co-op or what we should do with our kids, but we struggle with hoping our kids are going to do well enough or fit in, or that we don't mess them up in some way. I believe we can overcome this way of thinking. Homeschool moms are resilient and strong, and if you don't think you are, that is what we're here to do today. I believe that God does not make mistakes, and as a Christian, I know that before I was born, God knew my name, and it's in Scripture. Therefore my life has meaning, and your life does as well. I believe that you too are not a mistake. Your kids are not a mistake, and your lives have meaning. I believe that our minds trick us into worry and concern about problems in the future or even events of the past, and we need to focus just on today, especially if we're feeling disappointed or pulled in the wrong direction. I have a link that I put in the show notes that I did on my other podcast, A Few Minutes with God podcast. I believe that you are given the tools you need as a parent, as a homeschool mom, homeschool dad, homeschool grandparent, to nurture and protect your children, and that you have a group of us, this homeschool network, that will come alongside you and help you in any way that we can. Just as an aside, to get on this podcast network is not easy. I've had people approach me through the years, and anyone's welcome to email me and, say I have an idea for a podcast. But not many people have made it. And the reason is I look at their intent. The podcasters on this network are selfless people. They are people who really care about homeschoolers. Some people have a lot of products, some people don't. People that have podcasted through the years had blogs or, just were moms and dads that wanted to share their hearts with all of you. And I can vouch for these people. You have been given the tools, and it's basically, how are you going to use them? I believe all of the things I just listed, but what do you believe? Our minds are powerful, and we have the creativity and drive to do great things in our family and in our lives if we give ourselves some credit that we can. I want you to try it. What do you believe about yourself? Are you enough? Start your sentence with, I am enough because, and list all your beliefs. What are you finding? If you need to stop this audio, go ahead and come back to it later. And if you're stuck, pray about it and see what pops into your head. That is positive, not negative, okay? We can take authority over our minds by focusing on the good and starting each day and giving thanks. When I wake up, I immediately focus on thanking God for another day. Believe me, that did not come easy. That's not how I started out. When we wake up, we're thinking, oh my gosh, another day, or the kid's crying, or the baby needs me, or whatever that is. But as you're getting up, try it. If you don't think that immediately when you wake up, purpose to do that. God, thank you for today. Thank you that I'm still alive. Years ago, I had a really difficult time in my life, and I started keeping a praise journal. I was thankful for the sky, the beautiful clouds. I was thankful for the weather, even when it rained. I focused on being thankful for everything, and my outlook truly changed. And our difficulties didn't lift overnight. It took many, many years. But when you give praise to God, when you're grateful for the little things, and when you focus on positivity in your life, the outcome is so much different. Does that mean we can't have a pity party on occasion? Of course you can. One of my friends at church shares about being a new doctor. And he and his wife are both doctors, and we met them a long, long time ago. I dearly love this couple. And he was sharing about being at home and holding his little baby that was really sick. And his wife was working on the weekends and he was working during the week. And they were just getting started in their lives and their careers. And he had this little baby and he was just feeling sorry for himself because the baby was miserable and he didn't know what to do other than hold his child. And he was thinking about, all these things that were going through his head. And he said, his friends were inviting him, hey, let's go skiing or let's go hiking or let's do all these fun things. And he was feeling sorry for himself as he was looking down at his baby. And he said, it wasn't that he had great faith at this point in time. He was pretty much going through, obligations like going to mass each weekend and, attending church and just going through the routine of it. And he said it just hit him as he was looking at this baby, and God just filled him with this peace and grace in it. And he said he felt like God was saying to him, this is the most important thing you will ever do in your life. You're pouring into your son. You have a beautiful wife. You are creating a family. And this is the most important thing you will do. And, it wasn't this thought of, oh my gosh, I'm this great doctor and my wife's a doctor. No, it was that their focus was their children. We have to get rid of the if-onlys in our life. Do we have any of these thoughts? If only we didn't rent an apartment. If only we had a house. If only our car wasn't in the shop. If only we had enough money to do the things we'd like to do, even just buying food. I talked to a lady one time that it was between paying her rent or buying food. Things are really hard now. If only, fill in the blanks. If onlys are buzzkills. They're detrimental to our health, our mind, our spirit. I went through the if onlys at one point in time, and we had to cut out some things. We cut out paper products such as, paper plates. And we used paper towels instead of napkins. And we looked for frugal ways to save. And it was difficult. It was really difficult. And, we purchased an older SUV. It was 3 years old when I purchased it, but praise God, it had low miles. Well, to this day, I still have this car that's, 12 or 14 years old. And we've been trying to get a new car for the last 2 years, but finances haven't allowed us to do it. 2 years ago it was Hurricane Irma, and we had to put a new roof on the house and repair bills. And last year we had to fix up a truck that was an older truck that my husband drives now. And this year it was AC bills. And, it's always something, right? But getting another car isn't going to make me happy. And if it does, it's going to be, for 2 minutes until it gets its first scratch. Whatever that is, if only is going to be fleeting. And how do I cope? I thank God my car runs, even with the check engine light that was on the other day. It just needed some oil. And I just focus on, Lord, I'm happy with this car and I don't need another anytime I have any thoughts that I want to get another car. And even though it's a reason behind it is that I want to pass this on to another family member that needs it. And yet it's not time for that. I want to share another really quick story because we always think, yeah, but Felice, if you have money, things are just so much easier and you're just so much happier and just things, I would feel enough if I had enough money in the bank. There was a lady years ago who called me and she was coming to Florida half of the year. She came in the wintertime. And she was a homeschool mom, and they had a house on Sanibel Island, which is a beautiful island if you've ever been. And they lived, I believe, in North Carolina the other half of the time. And this mom, instead of saying, I'm so excited we get to come to Florida for half a year, and I have 3 kids, and I just want to connect with the homeschool group, which is what the ultimate conversation was. She wanted to connect with the homeschool group. But she was sharing with me how, this was, such an infringement of her time, and it took a lot of energy, and she just wished that they could just stay in one place and not have to, go to different places and on and on and on. And I just let her talk because sometimes you just need that stranger, right, that you can vent. And then I thought to myself when I hung up, here's a lady with so much money and so many resources to have not just one house, but 2 beautiful homes, and she's not happy. What makes us happy, friends? Our spouses, family, friends, groups online? I don't know what makes you happy, but I know what makes me happy. And my list is going to be different than yours, but think about this. Being happy is kind of the cornerstone to feeling enough. You're enough because you're given your time and your talents and your resources to raise your children, who I pray love and serve our Lord and are wonderful adults someday. But you have to realize that you are enough, and you are the person handpicked by God to do this, to be on this journey. No one else but you. Those children that you have, they were handpicked for you. And somehow God has a plan for our lives, and I can't tell you what that is. But I can look back at my life now as an older person and say, yes, now I see it. The Inspire series is coming up next, and it's my way of helping you with some key points in parenting and education and in our lives to focus on what is truly important. But before I leave you, I want to ask, do you believe you are enough now? I pray that you do. Take care, everyone. God bless. If you want to find today's show notes, go to vintagehomeschoolmoms.com and look for episode 532, Moms, You Are Enough.
Thanks for tuning in to the Vintage Homeschool Moms Show. Visit Felice at MediaAngels.com and TheVintageHomeschoolMoms.com. Vintage Homeschool Moms is a production of the Ultimate Homeschool Radio Network.